Hi, I'm Talicza.
And I'm Rachael, and this is Transatlantic Crime, a true crime podcast that covers stories from each side of the pond. Every week, we will both cover a separate story with a running theme.
Disclaimer, this podcast will contain swearing and details that some people may find offensive. If you are of a sensitive disposition, listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Transatlantic Crime.
So close.
Cool. So I'm sorry about last week. That was completely on me.
Oh, don't apologize. That we had both of us had a great break. We
Easter
appreciate
weekend.
all of our listeners coming back today. Happy
You're
Easter.
so patient with us. I was getting drunk. There was so many logistics with like driving somewhere and finding a place to record for you and seeing my brother and seeing my nephews and da-da-da. And then I just got really overwhelmed and went, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. And Carly was like,
totally fine.
Yeah, Carly was like, well, just have a week off. And I was like, no, I can't have a week off. She was like, of course you can. It's like your podcast. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sorry that we left you high and dry, but it's what Jesus would have wanted. And if it makes you feel any better, the next day from drinking cider all day, I had such bad heartburn that I felt it in my back.
Oh, no. Oh.
Have you ever had that kind of heartburn where it just feels like someone's stretching your back? I think I've discussed this before.
I can't say that I have. I'm sorry.
It's an English binge drinking problem, I think. But
I don't drink cider anymore. Cider, I tell this to people. Cider, when I drink it, makes me angry.
Wow. I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
102 episodes in. Why? Like, I can't think of what makes me angry. But like, well, white wine used to make me angry. Boyfriends have said to me before, like, please don't drink white wine again. And then now it just makes me cry and get absolutely fuck hammered after like one glass as well.
I think that cider makes me angry because it immediately makes me have to pee, and I am angry that I have to keep going to the bathroom.
Piss fury.
Yeah. Like, not again.
Fuck you, bladder. Okay. That's fine. Like, okay, well, yeah, we won't drink any of that when I come over, which is not long now at fucking all. I'm heading to you in about 2 weeks, I think. No, that's a lie.
I am so excited.
2 weeks and a bit.
3 weeks.
Yeah, about 3 weeks, which is so fucking exciting. We'll have loads of stuff. We'll record loads of stuff. I'm going to go to Universal Studios on my own. I do not care. Like, it's going to be great. Yay. I'm also going to be in San Diego as well to give Rachael like a rest. So if anybody knows anything good to do there or lives there, then let me know, because I'm up for it. Only women though. I don't want to stay with strange men. So
I can tell you a bar not to go to. I don't even remember the name of it, but it was the worst. When I went to San Diego, I went to one of the worst bars and one of the best bars I've ever been to.
Okay. We'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out. But the worst bar, I swear to God, it was so bad because it smelled so bad.
And we've been in some stinky bars.
Yeah, I've worked in pubs.
Like sticky floor, just must.
Sticky floor, carpet, like
sweat and like
dirty, wet carpet.
Yeah.
No, much worse than that. It smelled so bad, and we really tried to, and there was like no one in there, and it was a weekend where San Diego it was 4th of July weekend, so San Diego was packed.
You would think so.
It was packed, but this bar was not, and so and they had really cheap drinks in there, so we were like, let's go in.
It's hard, isn't it?
And so we went in there and we were like, we're gonna stick this out, we're gonna play a game of pool, we're gonna have some drinks. Oh man, it was awful.
Right, okay, we'll locate that. I want to kind of go, I want to go like whale watching or like seal watching or dolphin. Like, I just imagine it being some sort of like SeaWorld lovely adventure.
Yeah, definitely. There's things like that to do there. There's also the Navy.
Cool.
Lots of Navy men walking around.
Ooh, that's fun. Yeah, again, any travel tips or anything like that about San Diego, maybe you've been to that stinky bar, then let us know. You know where to go. Social media.
Yeah.
Have you seen the John Wayne Gacy documentary on Netflix?
I haven't. You know what I've been watching? Well, you talk about it because I haven't watched it, but there's something that I have been watching that I will talk about.
Well, it's kind of a quickie, like, because I think John Wayne Gacy is like something that everybody's looked into quite a lot. But the spin on this documentary on Netflix is that they have tapes of him talking to his defense lawyer that I've never heard, no one's ever heard. So they're cool. It's called the John Wayne Gacy tapes, and like that's why it's different to all the rest. And like, I don't think I quite realized what a fucking cunt he is. He does not take responsibility in any way, shape, or form for anything ever. And like, sorry, like, if you don't want a spoiler, like, it's not really a spoiler, but like, if you don't want a spoiler, then skip ahead. But he says, well, I don't give a shit that they've given me the death penalty because I killed 33 and they're only killing 1. So John Wayne Gacy wins.
Whoa.
I was like, what the fuck? Like,
what kind of warped thinking
I know
is that? Wow.
He also says something like, maybe if my wife was like a better wife, I wouldn't have done this. Or,
oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Because she was the teenage boy that you wanted to be with. He just doesn't take any responsibility for anything. It's the weirdest. Yeah, the tapes are really revealing. And you can really kind of see why he got the death penalty.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting because when you think about some serial killers, you're like, you don't have this much them talking about their own murders, you know, like Ted Bundy, like he barely talked about anything. So it's interesting to have someone like John Wayne Gacy to just be so like frank about like, well, I killed 33 people. So like almost like boasting about it.
Yeah, and he also like says stuff on there like you know that classic thing that like men that kill loads of women do, where they're, or like say they kill sex workers, they're like, oh, they laughed at me, or they tried to rob me, or stuff like that. Like loads of his murders, he says, oh, they tried to rob me, or he came at me with a knife, and it's like, no, he didn't. And when you look at like the pictures, like, because it's quite nice at the end, they show a picture of every single victim, which is, I think that's always like not overwhelming, but like it's just kind of like quite humbling to see, because they're quite throwaway numbers, but like when you see all of them, they all look like babies. Like they're so young. They look like you can see they're like school children. They might be like 16, 17, 18, but they are, some of them were younger, I think. But like, yeah, they look so young. And you're like, they didn't do anything to you. You fucking...
You big man.
Yeah.
Like,
you're their boss, most of them. Or you were offering them booze, or you were offering them a place to stay, or you were offering them money, or a job that they really badly wanted because they wanted to buy their first car, or like, do you know what I mean? He just took advantage like of these kids basically. And it's, when you see all the pictures, you're like, he really had a type.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah,
it is sad.
It's a good documentary though, but definitely recommend it. There's new material in there.
I've been meaning to watch it. I just feel like I need to be in the right mindset to watch it.
Oh, I'll watch any old fucking ghoulish shit, you know me. But yeah, I get it that some people need a run up.
I can't wait till you're here, Talicza. I'm gonna be like, I have to like prepare myself for all the things we're gonna watch in a row.
We don't have to. I'll keep in mind that it's not for everyone.
I feel like I have been kind of down a not reenactments, but it's like I've been watching The Dropout. I watched Pam and Tommy. Now I'm watching The Girl from Plainville.
Okay, you know that one? I've never heard of that. What's that about?
You've definitely heard of it. It's the story of the girl who convinced her boyfriend to kill himself. Remember, she's like texting him and he's in the car and she's like, get back in there and do it.
Yeah, the documentary's called I Love You, Now Die, I think.
Yeah. I think
HBO.
that's on HBO.
Yeah.
But they've done now like a fictional take of it. And the girl who plays her, Elle Fanning. But anyway, Girl from Plainville with Elle Fanning, she is really good in it.
Yeah, because the girl is like, the actual girl in real life is like a tiny little, she's like a little pixie, isn't she?
Yeah.
But what she was writing was pure evil.
Yeah. They just kind of show, they just go through like what kind of, I didn't know this, but she was obsessed with Glee and like, she
just
would memorize lines from Glee but like how much she wanted that attention and
okay. She was a bit of an amdram kind of maybe girl, like
kind of, yeah, but
aspiring actress.
She was just kind of she was that like, I feel like everyone has it in school, but it's like the girl that's kind of weird that, you know, you're being nice to be friends with her, but she's weird and weirdly like, puts attention onto herself.
Yeah, you're like, there's no need to be mean, but I don't want you to be like my best mate or anything.
Yeah. Like, okay, I guess we're hanging out today because you sat with me at lunch and
she's a bit of an oddball.
Yeah, definitely.
That sounds good though, and I really enjoyed The Dropout. I watched all of that. Like I nailed all of that in like 2 days.
Oh man, isn't she so good in that?
She's incredible. She's
so good.
She's got the voice completely down, even her expression, like in her face and her mannerisms and everything. Yeah, she captures it perfectly. Elizabeth Holmes to me has always seemed like a human, like an alien in a human costume. And like that is exactly how she plays her, and it's fucking brilliant.
She did such a good job. It's
definitely worth a watch.
I always wonder where the parents are now and how they think about it.
Well, Elizabeth Holmes isn't even in prison right now. Like, so she could just watch this. Like, she could watch that, no problem. I don't know if the laws have changed or whatever, but it's obvious who she is and it's obvious who she's playing. Is there no kind of, I don't know.
She just had a baby with the guy.
Billy someone who's famous for something. But is there not like laws that are like defamation law? Like, could she can't sue them, I guess? Because this was all in they're reporting stuff that was in the papers? She's been convicted.
She is, but it's kind of tricky. Like, if you're making, with all of these shows, you have to get some permission from some people. Yeah. You also need to get some insider information from some people. So there's definitely been real people that have been involved in all of these shows, which I find so interesting. Like
me too.
Who signed off on things, who for sure she wouldn't have, I don't think. No. It's just like with Pam and Tommy, Pamela Anderson, she didn't sign off on it. She didn't want them to make it. Neither did Tommy. Yeah.
It was so good, that show. If you need some light relief, that's a good show. Like,
it's a really good show. It kind of made me feel gross after watching it because the whole show brought up the exact thing that in the show Pamela Anderson didn't want to see the light of day.
Yeah.
So they just did it again.
Yeah. It was kind of rehashing like her worst nightmare. But it's like, it's funny and it's got Seth Rogen in it, and the actors who play Tommy and Pammy are perfectly cast as well.
Sebastian Stan is so good as Tommy.
I know.
He's so good.
I wonder if his dog is really that big, or if they had to like put a dong extension on him.
I think that it was fake. I think I saw an
fake
interview
dog
with him.
Strap on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, enough penis chat for one day.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
But I do have some true crime news for you.
Go on.
Yeah. You did an episode a while ago, and I think it was one of our first switches. Mm-hmm. So you did an American story and I did an English story.
Was it the guy
And
with the college cult?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was his name? Larry Ray.
Yeah.
So he's been convicted of trafficking and extortion.
Good. He should not be on the streets. Dangerous man.
And our last episode that we did, I talked about this podcast that I'm still binging. I just love it so much.
Yeah.
It's called Indoctrination.
Yeah.
And they had one of the main guys that was in that cult, the Larry Ray weird sex student cult.
Really?
He's in a 2-parter episode of Indoctrination, and he's talking about his whole experience of like how he got sucked into it.
Oh my God.
It's so interesting.
That's a good guess.
If you are a new listener, go back and listen to episode 25, Switch.
So long ago.
And listen to... It was so long ago. I didn't think it was. It felt so recent. But when I was listening to Indoctrination, I didn't know the person's name. I was like, this sounds so familiar. Why do I know so much about it already? Because the girl's name in it the Larry Ray's daughter, her name is Talia, remember? And it was like so similar to your name. Yeah. I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? And I was like,
it's getting in there somewhere.
Yeah. So, yeah, listeners, go listen to episode 25 and then listen to Indoctrination because you will find out even more about it.
Wow. Yeah, that is a I mean, it's just like not a really well-known story, but it's just absolutely crackers.
No, it really is.
Didn't really get that much like press coverage, and I'm not sure why. Also, I have a podcast recommendation, although it's kind of annoying because there's only like 3 episodes out and they're 2-parters. Oh. So like one of them is complete, obviously, because there's 2 parts, and then there's one.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it and I was like, okay, here's the next one. And then it started again on the one I'd already listened to, and I was like, fuck, it's not out yet. So don't go listen until they're all out. But it's called Scamfluencers on Wondery.
Oh.
Wondery, obviously, because Wondery's fucking brilliant. I don't love the delivery, but the stories are fucking great. So it's 2 journalists. One of them is a lady that works for BuzzFeed, and one of them is a lady that works for another kind of online news outlet. And yeah, they basically know each other, and they're really both obsessed with like scams and stuff, like the Tinder swindler and all that stuff that's come out lately. Yeah. And they're talking about like Ponzi schemes and scams that I've never heard of before. So that was super interesting. But it kind of reminds me of Crime Junkie in that there's 2 people, but it sounds scripted. When they chat, it sounds like they've scripted the chat. And I'm like, yeah, you don't need to do that. Just talk. Yeah, like I do like them both, but like the kind of format of it is weird.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean. It's like it's scripted, but they're trying to have their same it's like
little jokes.
Yeah, like if we wrote things out and then read them out and had our same kind of answers.
Yeah,
but
like, okay, and then you say this, and then I'll say this. Yeah. It's like, that's not what?
No.
Yeah. That almost put me off, but I powered through, and the stories are really, really good. Massive twists and stuff, so that they're worth a go.
Ooh, I'm definitely going to listen to that.
Yeah, and then they're also really recent, in the 2020s, basically. And then the other thing that I wanted to recommend was a YouTube channel that I'm addicted to at the moment called Heavy Case Files.
Ooh,
which could almost be a podcast because, well, she's quite calming to listen to. She does everything like very slow and very like she's a bit like Phoebe Judge, like very like measured in her delivery. But she has like pictures come up, but it's almost like a video podcast because she's not in the videos. She just she just flashes up pictures, but the pictures are on the screen for like a minute. So because obviously there's not much about them because they're like really old file. Basically it's about cold cases that have been solved like 25 years later, or cases that have been solved 50 years later or whatever, and like or 5 people that went missing but were then found. So it's like lists which I really, really enjoy, and it's nice to listen to before bed. But yeah, she's not like in the videos or anything, but it could almost be like a video podcast. Like you don't have to watch the video, is what I'm trying to say. You could just listen to the audio. On.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And so I gave her a shout out on our social media, and she liked it and said thanks. So I thought that was sweet. Which brings me on to my story this week.
Ooh, you know what? I'm so excited because I don't know what the theme is. I don't know anything about what it's also a surprise for me because now I have to research the story for next week's episode. So I like this new format.
This is selfish because I love this. So I can't wait for you to find one and tell me. So
okay.
Basically, I put as if Twitter status like my new kink is when old men are found guilty of crimes they did like 50 years ago.
Yes.
And they're like, shit, I got caught.
It
just gets me so happy. Every day I'm like, fuck you. Like you thought you got away with it. And then DNA happened and ruined your fucking horrible secret.
Yes.
That's the theme this week. Cold cases that got solved like decades later.
Amazing.
So,
all right. I love it.
Yeah. Also, like quick side note, Carly was like the episode me and Carly recorded was obviously really well received. So thank you everybody that gave us any compliments about that. That was really sweet. I read them out to Carly and now I've created a monster. She was like, we need to do some more episodes. I was like, oh really? Did you like that? Okay. Did you? And she was like, I'm just doing this because it's easy for you. I was like, it's not easier for me. Like that means I'm doing worse too. She was like, I've just got this really good idea. And I'm like, dude, just admit that you love it. Like
you know what we should do? We should do an episode when you're here and then we do this same thing and give her a call.
Oh my God, she'll wet her pants.
Okay, amazing.
That's such a good idea as well. She's super into she's basically a podcaster now. After that, like she is a monster.
I love it.
So okay, I'm going to tell you a story about a lady called Joan Harrison. Okay. So my sources for this were a website called True Crime Library, BBC News, the Lancashire Post, and unfortunately the Daily Mail because they fucking know everything for some reason. Okay, Joan Harrison lived in Preston, which is a city in Lancashire, Northern England. So it's between Manchester and the Yorkshire Dales, and then Blackpool is to the west of it. So it's fairly high up, pretty cold, pretty rainy, and very northern. Far too northern.
They sound northern.
They sound bloody northern up there. Far too northern for me to go up there.
Famous? Is there someone famous from Preston? I feel like that is familiar to me.
Are you thinking of the guy called Preston who was in Big Brother?
No, I'm not thinking of him. I've talked about him on the podcast before because there's
he's had a bit of airtime, hasn't he? Probably too much.
Yes, there's a song that he does that just
boys
gets stuck
will
in my
be
head sometimes.
Boys.
Not that one.
Not that one. Another one.
No,
we've talked about this.
It's
before.
A different one. It's terrible.
Okay,
but go back and listen to our other episodes where
I love you. Don't you? That one.
No, and that was written for Chantel and
Secret Preston fan.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're not talking about the guy that was from Preston. No, I don't. I mean, I'm sure there's a fair few famous people from Preston. Let's just Google it. Fuck it. We're only telling one story today, so we might as well. Yeah, you do it. Okay.
I really don't recognize any of these.
Read out some names. I'll see if I know them.
Andrew Flintoff. He's a soccer
Is he cricketer
player or football.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Cricket. He's some kind of sports person.
Yeah, he sounds sporty.
He's number one.
Okay.
These are all sports people. Wade Barrett, Phil Jones,
nope.
John Inman, listed in film and theater personalities. They're not recognizable. It's just not.
I'm sure they're famous.
This whole bit out.
No, give Preston the recognition it deserves.
Okay.
They've been fighting so hard. They're just really good at sports. That's all. We don't.
Yeah.
follow it that much. So yeah, Joan Harrison, she is 26 at this time, and she's a young mother, but people often thought that one of these things that I found was just ragging on her continuously, like being really mean about her. And they were saying,
it the Daily Mail?
No, it was, I think it might have been like I think it might have been the True Crime Library one, but they were basically, I think it might have been written a while ago, but it was basically saying like she was a prostitute and a drug addict and like being really mean. But the facts of the matter are, like, on this they also said that a lot of people thought she was a lot older than 26 because she was an alcoholic, and so it aged her.
Okay.
But she would also partake in like part-time sex work to fuel her drug and alcohol addictions. Yeah. And because of this, she was living apart from her husband and daughters for about 2 years. She was in poor health, and it was also said like she had lung problems, and she would also consume a lot of morphine and cough mixture. Back when cough mixtures in 1974 actually had loads of shit in that would get you high, I think. Yeah. So she would hang around with other alcoholics and drug addicts and sex workers in the Preston area. You know how sometimes like homeless people kind of like congregate because they can like share their resources and stuff.
Yeah.
In 1974, she was caught forging a prescription for drugs and appeared in Preston Magistrates Court, but she didn't go to prison. And the next year she was unemployed, but through housing benefits, she rented a room in the Avenham Street area of Preston from a landlord called David Keeley. They ended up starting a relationship together, and he proposed to her. He bought her a ring. He thought he could provide her a more stable life, but her pull to alcoholism was too strong, and she would have periods where she just binge drank and disappeared for a couple of days. So again, this is one of those things like, when someone has that behavior and then you can't get hold of them or don't see them, you don't worry as much as you would somebody who you saw every day. You'd be like, oh, well, they've just disappeared again. They'll be back like they were all the other times. So in November 1975, she volunteered with St. Mary's Hostel for Homeless Men as a part-time cleaner.
Aww.
And on November 20th, I think she was just like there a lot. So she was like, oh, well, I'll just help.
Might as well help out.
Yeah. So on November the 20th of 1975, according to the hostel's warden, Ian Pynchon, Joan set off with some of the hostel staff for a lunchtime drink at a nearby pub. She came back to the hostel at about 4 p.m. to lie down on one of the beds. She ended up sleeping with one of the men at the hostel at this time, as in she had sex with them, which seems irrelevant, but it won't be later. At 10 p.m, she decided to return home. She asked her fiancé, David, for more money for some drinks, and he refused. So she left at 10:20 p.m. and walked along Church Street towards the town centre. Witnesses saw her, and that was the last she was seen. They said that she was wearing a light green 3/4 length coat with a fur collar, a turquoise blue jumper, and with a bright yellow tank top over it, with dark brown trousers and brown suede calf-length boots.
Okay.
So nobody hears from her then for 2 more days. So on November 23rd, 1975, at 8 a.m, a lady called Mildred Atkinson left her home on Guildford Road to go to the corner shop for the Sunday papers. And as she walked along Berwick Road, she passed a house that had been vacant for a year, number 3 Frenchwood Street, but it had been recently sold to the council. The house had a garage behind it, and Mildred noticed that the door was partly open and flapping in the wind. Inside, she saw a body laying face down with a coat over the head of it and blood surrounding it. At first she thought it was just a drunk person who had banged their head, but she peeked in and she soon discovered that it was Joan. So the police were called, and they discovered that Joan had been moved a few feet from where she was initially attacked. One of her trouser legs had been pulled down, and one of her legs was completely out of her trousers.
Oh.
One of her boots was also pulled off, but then it was placed like back over her foot. So like from a distance, it would look like she had the shoe on, but you could just lift it up and it wasn't on her leg, which is strange and also relevant later.
Okay.
Her bra was lifted up to expose her breasts, and she had a deep bite mark on the left breast. She had been anally raped and vaginally raped and kicked to death. Her underwear was found inside her vagina.
Wow.
Which is, it's just so A, brutal, and B, like almost ritualistic and weird. So, like, why would you put her underwear in her vagina? Like, it's got to be a weird, like, weird power. I don't know. Like, God knows.
I don't know. And also, it's also all of her clothes placements, like her boot, her one leg out,
and remember her coat was over her head as well.
Yeah,
he got covered her with a coat. Whoever had done this. Joan's handbag and purse were missing. Okay, I will need to take this up with you because you call a handbag a purse, and when we say purse, we mean English people mean the thing you keep your money in, and when we say handbag, we mean the whole handbag.
Yeah.
When you say purse, you mean the whole purse.
Sometimes, yeah.
And when you say, what do you call the thing you keep your money in? Wallet?
Your wallet. Yeah.
Okay, even for a woman.
Yeah.
Here, you'd have a woman's purse and a man's wallet.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
That's okay, but I just thought you're going to be like, handbag and purse? What do you mean?
No, I mean, I lived in England, so I know what you're talking about. But yes, for our American listeners,
English people, when they say purse, they mean the bit you keep your money in, specifically.
Your wallet, yeah.
So they were both missing, and they contained her inhaler, which she would have needed. She would have had them on her she wouldn't have accidentally left it anywhere. You wouldn't have thought. Several items of jewelry were also missing, including 2 gold wedding rings because she'd been married twice. A post-mortem was carried out, and the pathologist was not able to determine the exact cause or time of death. The cause of death they eventually settled on was, and that's what they put on the death certificate, was hemorrhage and shock caused by multiple injuries, murder by person or persons unknown.
Okay.
So she had one U-shaped laceration on the back of her head, and the pathologist concluded that she'd been hit with the heel of a lady's shoe. But later on, it was then thought, so it was quite small, but then later on, they thought that the injury could have been made with a hammer. Now, this is important because this is the time that the Yorkshire Ripper was active in this area.
Oh, yeah.
The Yorkshire Ripper's weapon of choice was a hammer.
Okay.
So he would go up behind, if you want to listen to a really fucking long episode on the Yorkshire Ripper that nearly finished me off, then we recorded one. I can't remember what one it was.
Episode 32.
Yeah, that is a long episode on the Yorkshire Ripper. Yeah. But anyway, if you go back there, oh God, what a harsh one that is. Fuck me, I don't know how we got any jokes out of that one.
How did we do that? How were we not
I must have had some funny stories. You must have had some anecdotes. Like, what else could there have been?
I don't know.
Yeah, that was a toughie. So, his weapon of choice, as you will know if you listen to that episode, was a hammer, and then he was known to use a screwdriver. So he would knock them out with the hammer and then screwdriver stab them to death. And he would also place coats over them.
Right.
Over some of them. And he would also leave them out in the open. He never buried his victims. He never really tried that hard to hide them.
In a way, this does match up with the Yorkshire Ripper, but obviously it's not.
No. So, there's a lot of things that are similar, but then there's some things that really aren't. So, there were no stab wounds. And that was like his main MO, was stabbing people to death. So There were also extensive injuries to her head, face, body, and legs, which had been caused by violent kicking and stamping.
This person was angry.
Yeah, which is so scary. The bite marks on Joan's left breast, and I fucking hate bite marks. Like,
yeah,
it's so animalistic. It's how angry we're, like, it's horrible. The bite marks left on her were examined by a Liverpool dentist called James Furness, and he concluded that the marks had been put there a short time before death, and that the bruising indicated a clear gap in the upper front teeth of the perpetrator. And again, Peter Sutcliffe had a gap in his front teeth.
Oh.
So there's so many things that are pointing towards him. So it's a really confusing case for the police at this point.
To me, it sounds like the police I mean, I'm guessing, and why it didn't get solved for a long time, because the police were probably like, well, let's just chalk it up to him and move on.
They have a very good reason to chalk it up to him, and I will tell you that in a minute. So examination of the body also found semen from around the time of death. It was tested, and they found out that semen came from someone with blood group B. Because that's all they could do at that point, wasn't it? They couldn't get DNA. They could just find out your blood group if you were a secretor. So you're either a secretor or a non-secretor. Secretors have their blood type in their spit and in their semen, and non-secretors don't. And I think secretors make up about 80% of the population. Only 20% make up are non-secretors. So it is quite a good way of eliminating people. Yeah. So from that semen, they found the blood group of the person was B. And then the man that at the hostel who she had sex with earlier was blood group A. So that eliminated him, which is a good thing. Yeah. So the Lancashire police took saliva samples from over 6,000 men, including crews from ships that had been in the docks around the time of the murder. So they did really try.
Yeah, that's extensive.
Yeah, they didn't just write it off, but you have to remember as well, at this time, they were so keen to catch the Yorkshire Ripper. He was really prolific, and they were under so much pressure to catch him because he was murdering people left, right, and fucking centre, and they were getting no closer to it. So they were probably really glad to have a sample to check, basically.
Yeah.
So they believed that the murderer was a local who was familiar with the area. And this was confirmed when 2 months later they found Joan's purse hidden in a bush in Avenham Park. And in the following, so he knows like the local parks and stuff, you would guess. And then in the following June 1976, her handbag was found carefully hidden in a dump very close to where she was killed. So the motive wasn't robbery, I wouldn't have thought, unless all the money was gone. No. He could have just taken her stuff and fucked off and hit her once. He didn't have to, do all that stuff. So, like I said, there were elements of the murder that were similar to the Ripper, like the potential hammer attack, the fact that Joan was a sex worker, and the way she was found with her coat over her and her boot as well. The Yorkshire Ripper had also done that with boots of his victims, which is very strange.
Yeah.
That's a weird little, like, tick. So, if you recall, the Yorkshire Ripper, that whole investigation was fucked because somebody who came to be known as Wearside Jack sent in a tape to the police and a couple of letters saying I'm the Yorkshire Ripper, I killed Joan Harrison, I killed da-da-da. Like, he names the victims and one of them is Joan. And so they were like, okay, it's him. It's the Yorkshire Ripper. It was later found out that that tape was a hoax.
Yeah.
It was so shitty. Like, it really threw the police off. It gave Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, months more time to go undetected and keep killing people. He got into loads of trouble later anyway, the guy who did that tape. You'll fight if you want to hear about all of that. I cover it all in the episode 32. Yes, so if you want to listen to it, it's all in there. Sutcliffe was active between 1975 and 1980 in the Yorkshire and Manchester areas. But, as I said, they found out that the tape was a hoax, and they later found out that Peter Sutcliffe was blood group O, not B.
Oh.
So they're looking for a perpetrator with the blood type B, and they have not found one as yet. Peter Sutcliffe, when he got caught, also reminded the police that he had never murdered. He didn't know who Joan was, and he hadn't murdered her. Obviously, they thought he could be lying, but he'd come clean about the rest of the murders. So it seems weird that he was kind of proud of what he did, and it seems weird to them that he wouldn't just admit what he did. So, unfortunately, the case went cold. In 2001, police questioned a 59-year-old man living in a London hostel, alleged to have been seen at the Balmoral pub on Manchester Road, Avenham, where Joan was drinking the night that she disappeared. He was alleged to have left the pub and then returned with a blood-stained shirt, and he was said to have tried to sell a gold ring belonging to Joan the following day, but the man was later released without charge. So I am assuming that they probably checked his blood type, or that's all just hearsay, or
or he
whatever
had alibis, or
I mean, I can't find the reason that he was released without charge, but it wasn't him. So in November 2010, 9 years after that, police announced that they had cold case detectives investigating the murder of Joan again, and that they were awaiting results of DNA. So in February 2011, just, what is that, November, December, January, so 3 months later, they announced they had found her killer.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a man called Christopher Smith from Leeds, and his DNA matched the DNA at the scene. So how did they find him?
Who is this guy?
He's a guy with an annoyingly generic name, because I can't find fuck all about him, which really annoyed me. And that's why at the beginning of this call, I was like,
that happens? You like type so like Christopher Smith, and then you just come up with all of these Facebooks of Christopher Smiths, and
you say
it.
Well, what? Because you're trying to find someone's Facebook.
Yeah. No.
I may have. What of it?
No, I'm saying, like, in researching
it's really annoying.
In the past than that. Yeah, that's really frustrating. Like,
call your kid whatever you want.
Name.
Yes, because I need to know these things. And but also really upsetting was there is a lot of sex offenders called Christopher Smith.
Really?
I was like, Christopher Smith, sex offender. I was like, nope, not him. Like,
all right, that's
that's
a
nice.
Bad luck name then. Don't name your child Christopher if your last name is Smith.
Absolutely not, because Google will just bring up a load of sex offenders. Yeah, so basically, who is this guy? So he had a swab taken when he was arrested for drink driving in 2008.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
And this is going to be the most annoying thing you're going to hear today so far. What time is it there?
It's 9:30 in the morning, so there's still time.
There's still time, but this is pretty up there. He died 6 days later from a terminal illness.
No!
He had lung cancer. So annoying.
That's so frustrating.
He was 60 years old at the time. Like I said, he was a seemingly devoted grandfather and family man. So he's just been fucking living his life. But I will say this. It was his first appearance on the National DNA Database because he stayed out of trouble for 18 years. Now, this is the weird thing, like his background. So he was born Alexander Smith in Derry, Northern Ireland. And he's thought to have used over 14 aliases, including his final identity as Christopher Smith as he pursued his criminal career. He had previous form of being a sex offender. So his offending became more violent and sexual, and in 1981 he was jailed for 2 years and 9 months for the attempted rape of a 17-year-old girl in the Manchester area.
Wow.
So keep in mind, that's 1981, and in 1976 he had killed Joan.
Yeah.
So that cannot have, I just think that cannot have been the only person he killed.
No, that's not a one-off.
Absolutely not. So just 5 years later, he tried to rape a 17-year-old girl and he got jailed for it. And then 2 years after that, so that's 1983, he got released. And then he received a suspended sentence for the manslaughter of his first wife, Violet. He was after he was cleared of murder, arguing that she fell onto a knife he held while they were having a row.
Oh, yeah, that happens all the time.
I always fall on knives. Fucking hell.
Especially when someone's holding them.
This rapist, anyway, we don't have time. So, his second wife has since told detectives that he threw her out of a window when she was 7 months pregnant.
Whoa, this guy.
Yeah, he's a father of 6. He's been married 3 times. And then he basically spent his latter years at various addresses in Leeds to be near his family when he fell ill.
Okay, I was going to ask what the location of that rape in 1981 and then following. I'm guessing it wasn't in Preston, because if they tested so many men around that time and he wasn't included.
Yeah. So he moved to, so basically these are the places that he's lived. He moved to Newport, South Wales when he was 15 from Ireland, from Derry.
Mm-hmm.
Then he lived in Bolton. Then he lived in Salford and then in Stoke-on-Trent. And then he moved to Leeds when he fell ill. Okay. So he's been all over, really. All over the kind of north and west of England. Yeah. It's thought that he didn't know Joan, and he may have come across her by chance after being released from a prison sentence that he had served in the area. He would have been 26 or 27 at the time of the crime.
Wow.
The Crown Prosecution Service said that police definitely had enough evidence to charge him with the murder were he still alive. Mm-hmm. And the reason that they had enough evidence was because the previous convictions, and the day before he died, he had left a note in his family home in Leeds, just 5 miles from Sutcliffe's hometown, basically. That's why they were mixed up. So on the 29th of January, when he was dying of lung cancer in 2008, he wrote a note and hid it in a drawer. And it says, "To however it concerns." I'm assuming he means to whomever it concerns.
Yeah.
And 2 is spelt TWO. So not only is he a horrible criminal, he's also a fucking idiot. So to however it concerns, I would like to put the record straight. I can't go on with the guilt. I have lived with it for over 20 years. I am truly sorry for all the pain I have caused to anyone. Please believe me when I say I am sorry. I love my grandkids and my daughter. I cannot go back to prison anymore. Please, God, help my family who I worship. I have been out of trouble for over 20 years, so please, God, help me. I am so sorry. God, forgive me. I love you all forever. Right, 1.
It's not exactly a confession letter. It's just an apology, feeling sorry for yourself letter.
1, if there is a God, he ain't forgiven you. And 2, that kind of creeps me out in that he can't go on with the guilt. I'm truly sorry for all the pain I've caused to anyone. Yeah. For how many murders?
Right.
That's what I think.
What are you talking about, dude?
What he did to Joan was horrifically violent, and the actions of somebody who is not just strangling someone to see if they can get away with it. Like, he fucking also beat her to death.
It's not something, and they talk about this all the time, like, if you listen to Paul Holz's podcast, something that extreme, there had to have been a string of things that led up to that he
build
did
up
as well. Yeah.
Like,
smaller things.
Like, criminals don't tend to de-escalate.
No.
He killed someone and then he got caught attempting to rape someone after that.
Right.
So it's not like he thought, oh, well, I killed someone, so let's see if I can get away with raping someone. He's obviously already raped someone before that. He just happened to get caught for the Manchester girl. So, it's just like really worrying, and it's very good that they've got his DNA on file now. Imagine if he had never been caught drink driving.
No, we wouldn't know.
This is why I love cold cases. It's so crazy. This is just my last little bit. So, head of crime for Lancashire Constabulary said, advances in DNA interpretation over the years has finally allowed us to identify Smith as the man at the scene of Joan's murder. If he was alive today, there is no doubt that he would have been charged. And that is the story of Joan Harrison.
Wow. I'm so glad that they caught him, and for her own family as well. Didn't you say she had daughters? And
she has two little girls, and 2 ex-husbands. But how many people? How many murderers? They're just walking amongst us.
They've got to still be looking into it, right? It's not like they were like, oh yeah, we found this guy. All right, put him away in a drawer. That's it. Like, there's got to be some that they are still trying to match up that we don't know about.
I really hope so. He moved around a lot, and he used aliases. So that to me says you've done some shady fucking shit. 14 aliases.
Can we get what's his name that does true crime bullshit? Can we get him
Josh Hallmark would figure this out in a minute.
Yes.
He
would make a map. He would go to the places. He would find out all the names.
Oh.
Get him.
Did you see him last night in LA? Did you tell him I love him?
I'm sorry.
Oh, God. I can't believe I missed him.
Yeah.
Oh, I love him so much. Also, if you haven't listened to the...
You're right. Like, I think you said it, you said it last week or the week before. We need more people, more podcasters to just get in there and investigate. There's stories that need to be investigated.
Oh,
get in there.
This is
get some Wondery people out there.
Get some money behind this.
Yes.
He has definitely killed more people.
Yeah.
Well, he fucking definitely killed his first wife.
Oh, and assaulted at the very least.
And then okay, so the things he's been actually caught for, well, the things we know are fact. Threw his wife out of a window, his pregnant wife.
Yeah.
6 children. So any woman that's ever been in contact with him probably has something to say or tell someone. He stabbed his first wife to fucking death. Mm-hmm. He killed Joan Harrison. He attempted to rape a girl in Manchester. God knows what else. Like, that's crazy.
From 1970 until
2008 he got he said he kept out of trouble for 20 years.
Yeah, what does that even mean? That's from the words of a man who
it means fuck all, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's just say that let's just take that as read. That's still a good fucking 30 years worth of shit you've been up to.
Yeah, 1970
calling yourself different names.
Let's just say 1995 or 2000.
Yes.
There's so much that could have happened that your stupid letter could be alluding to.
I know. Also, that's like, sorry for everything I did, God. Well, what was it then?
Yeah. You want to tell me?
Not going to actually write it down because I don't want to be held responsible for it or anything, but...
Right.
Yeah.
No one needs to know, but I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so I cannot wait for your story. I love these.
All right. I'm excited. I'm excited to get into that. I'm going to bring something good. All right. Good story this week. Amazing.
Thanks, pal. Well, it's really cool that the Yorkshire Ripper was like, I didn't kill Joan Harrison. And then everyone was like, yeah, whatever, you probably did. And then in 2008, they're like, oh, fuck, he really didn't. And at that point, the Yorkshire Ripper was still alive. He died during COVID.
You're totally right.
So I can imagine Peter Sutcliffe being like, see, I didn't do it.
Told ya.
Yeah. He was a fucking piece of
whatever.
shit. So
You know.
fuck you both.
Yeah.
I hope you're having a good time in hell.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on that note, on cursing the dead.
Thanks for listening. We will talk to you next week.
Okay, I love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Transatlantic Crime this week. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at TransatCrimePod, Instagram at Transatlantic Crime, and on Facebook with Transatlantic Crime Podcast.
Thanks, bye.